Hi, everyone. My name is Patty Huber, and I worked at the Department of Industrial Relations for 25 plus years. My most recent role there was an assistant chief. For the last 10 years of my employment there, I spent much of my time bringing units onto the Salesforce platform. And that included our Bureau of Field Enforcement over at the Labor Commissioner's Office, our licensing and registration, and most importantly, our wage claim unit. And I shouldn't forget retaliation claims, but most importantly, our wage claim. We spent a lot of time ensuring that our wage claims were appropriately handled, and we receive over 30,000 claims a year at the California Labor Commissioner's Office. So that became really important. And so we were putting our unit on the Salesforce platform. And during that time, I had the pleasure of working with an incredible vendor called ProPoint Technology. After I retired in 2023, I started working with ProPoint as an executive advisor to their labor solutions practice and have really enjoyed that new role. And I also get to stay in touch with some of my folks over at the Department of Industrial Relations, and you will learn more from them in a little bit. And so today we will talk about case closures. Salesforce can be an asset when it comes to managing a large volume of wage claims. It's fully customizable to the needs of various labor departments, as seen with the various features of the platform that processes our online wage claims. COVID presented challenges that really made us look at the way we handled wage claim processing in California. Our constituents could not come into the office to file their claims. We were having issues getting those claims online, as well as keeping our own staff safe and allowing for remote work a large majority of the time. We determined that an online wage claim portal would not only allow the claimants to be able to file those claims online, it would also be able to allow staff to be able to process those claims more easily online. It also allows labor departments to handle high volumes of wage claims being filed, and management of the claim can be handled from inception to closure. As I said before, over 30,000 wage claims per year are filed in California, and we're at 70%, at least as of the time that I left in 2023, 70% of those claims are now being filed by the public online. Prior to using the Salesforce platform, we were a highly manual, very siloed system in California. And so for wage claims, we had 16 different wage claim offices, and each of those offices had their own database that they were using. And so you couldn't see at a glance whether somebody had filed a claim in Bakersfield and also filed that same claim in Sacramento until the employer notified us. So that was very important to combine all of the wage claims that were being filed in California. In-person filing was happening a lot prior to COVID, and the online platform allowed folks to file their claims, and the platform is very user-friendly. We have lots of information to help the online filers be able to get through that form easily. The tangible benefits for the user just cannot be overstated. The user can check their claim where they're at, they can see where it has been filed, and they can also see whether they have any meetings upcoming, any conferences or hearings that they need to attend. We no longer had paper that we were having to track in our wage claim offices. So being able to see the claim and work the claim online allows for better management of a claim. And also our supervisors were not in the office all the time either, so they can easily see what's going on with any particular claim. It allows folks to be fully remote, and it also allows for less rework of a claim. What we're going to be demonstrating today is fully on the Salesforce platform. The pain points that we were able to identify early on allowed us to be able to customize a build that would solve some of those pain points. The community portal, for example, that's what I was talking about earlier, that allows a claimant to be able to not only file their own claim, but to track the progress of their claim. There are internal workflows. For example, when a claim comes into the office and it gets assigned to a deputy, the status of the claim is automatically updated. And that happens many times throughout the life of a claim when there's a conference scheduled or when there's a hearing scheduled. The other thing that happened with the online claim project was that we allowed for text messaging. So the employees and the parties get notice of any upcoming conferences or hearing via text messaging. It also allows for us to communicate with our constituents or our claimants using text messaging to ask for ad hoc things. You know, we noticed that your mail came back and maybe we need a new address for you, so we can easily text message to get that. There's also an e-signature. We joined the 21st century and allowed for e-signatures, which had not been done previously. We allowed for data integration with third parties. There are API accesses so that if a union has a large volume of claims that they want to file at once, they can do that via an API. We have dashboards that we can easily see at an office level, at your own case level, or at a higher management level, what's going on in any individual office or the program statewide. And then we also allowed for document storage. We no longer have those paper files that those papers had to be uploaded and have to exist someplace because we still need access to forms and other notifications. And so having that storage capacity has been key to, as you can imagine, 30,000 claims a year, how much paper that generated in the past and how many documents still need to be uploaded. Now, saying all that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to a coworker of mine in the past who is still at DIR, Gurvinder.
Hey, so hello, my name is Gurvinder Kandola. I am a senior deputy for the Labor Commissioner's Office here in the state of California. I've worked for the Labor Commissioner's Office since 2016, and I've been part of various special projects involving the IT side and the business side since November 2020, which is exactly when the online wage claim platform began, and was a leading subject matter expert on the development of each step of the online wage claim process for the Labor Commissioner's Office. So this is a case that we had just submitted earlier. Suppose at this first meeting or the second meeting or whenever we have a outcome or a closeout to the case, be it by settlement or a decision, any sort of payment, we can then close out the case based on a variety of options. So if we're going to close out this case and we had a settlement and the parties paid, well, not one another, but if the defendant paid the claimant at that time, we could select the party-to-party payment option, and then we come to a cashiering component of our system, and we could say maybe the parties had settled for $2,000, so we had $2,000 here. Payment would be on behalf of that defendant, and we can allocate that $2,000 across these three case issues. So we could say they allocate just 200 to this, and then 1,000 here, and then 800 here. We post that payment, and the case issues will subtract by the amount. So there'll still be a balance on those case issues, but we can modify them down to show a zero amount owed based on these payments that have been received. So you can see the initial amount that was assessed was $285, but we have received a $200 payment. You see the $800 payment and the $1,000 payment below that. And then the third column here shows the remaining balance due to the employee. But in this case, these three case issues are now resolved. And our office likes to ensure that we have a zero balance when the case is being closed out. So I can modify these 3 case issues.
And that's because nothing else is due on the case at this point, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So the parties have settled. They've signed the documents that indicate that there's been a release or a settlement on the claim itself. And once the conditions of that release or settlement have been met, that's when we would go ahead and post a payment, modify these case issues. We have the issue modification button up here. This one was for 200. And then we have a variety of issue modifications because we can find different amounts owed at different stages of our cases. And we have this whole pick list here to change the modification type. In this case, we're just going to say there's a settlement pre-hearing. It's a wage modification, so we can create that one. On here we have what was left, or what was received, 800. And then you can change the status of the case issue itself. It was open, but now we're going to change it to settled, and we can hit save. So those should all have been amended. And so now this is before the refresh, so you can see the amounts assessed, amounts received, and the balance due is still has a dollar amount with the status of open. But once I refresh this page, those should be a zero balance due, and the status of those 3 case issues is now settled. So when we're looking at statistics for this case or this office or this user who's been assigned, the deputy assigned to this case, or the state as a whole, these case issues now match exactly what has happened to the case, and there's no further amounts due, despite the initial amount being claimed being more than the settlement amount. So those case issues are now taken care of, and we're ready to now close out the case. So here on the front of the case management detail page, we have a close the disposition section. And so I can double click that box or press the pencil icon, and we can see the close the disposition has choose the status of the case at closure with a drop down. So we have a whole host of reasons as to why this case is being closed. There's reasons for a dismissal, there's other, if none of these pick list items help them, different aspects of a case settling, different dismissals, and paid in full, all these other options that we have. And this specific case we'll say is settled at the conference, the date of the resolution, case closure date, and then a purge date that we set. For this case, we can just say it's going to be closing today, and the purge date is going to be today, and then you just go ahead and hit save. And now it's closed. There we go. So the case status is now automatically switched to closed, and the taskbar at the top here has jumped to closed. So it's skipped over the hearing and the judgment because we haven't had to go through that aspect of the process, and automatically has gone to closed. Now this case is resolved and closed, and will no longer be showing in a open case list for the assigned deputy.
This concludes our demo presentation of ProPoint's Labor Solutions, a case closure solution for the California Department of Industrial Relations. Thank you so much for joining, and stay tuned for upcoming videos in this series.